Good evening. Another week, another guest joining me this week's appearance on the Between the Stripes podcast network is Preston Adams, a gentleman that I've had a few Twitter conversations with, just nerding out about college football history, FCS history. He's a top 25 voter for the College Sports Journal. They publish great stuff about the FCS. Really a must read for sure. Covers the SWAC as well, and is also written for Hero Sports FCS. Preston, did I miss anything in the introduction? Any opening statements?
No, I think you pretty much covered it all.
Awesome. Yeah, glad to hear. So this week we have a special, I guess, sort of scenario where I found out in doing research. A person I follow, his name's Brendan in Jersey. I forget his exact tag, but he was posting the top 10 Army teams since I think the year was like, I guess, no, the last 50 years, since 71. And on that list was a 77 Army team. So I was wondering if that team had any bowl consideration. So did a newspapers.com search, which is definitely a must subscribe if you're a huge history nerd, because it literally has anything you can find about college football. It's in a newspaper. But did a quick search, and Army was up for consideration for at the time second year Independence Bowl. And the team that they were up against in terms of bowl consideration was a surprising one, also in New York. No, it wasn't Syracuse, but it was the Colgate Raiders, Red Raiders at the time. Ultimately, neither Army or Colgate went to that bowl. It was instead Louisville. But it's just interesting to see Colgate, still having that great stature. And for context, 45 years before that, there was a 1932 Colgate team, which I'm sure listeners of this podcast have heard me gush about over and over again. But the 1932 undefeated, untied, unscored upon, and uninvited Colgate team that missed out on an appearance in the Rose Bowl against USC, that bid instead went to Pitt. So I guess the more things changed, the more they stayed the same, as a 10-1 Colgate team was snubbed for the 1977 Independence Bowl. Preston, I want to know, I guess, your opening thoughts on just like, I guess, this wacky sort of tidbit in college football history.
Well, so what I was going to say is, like you kind of said, not much has changed. Well, I think we're all kind of begrudging the fact that Cincinnati still we don't think has a chance at the college football playoff at the moment. But that has been a thing, since before we even knew about this sort of thing. There's always been those sort of powers that be that have kept everybody out of, that sort of space. I found it interesting because, what I love about learning about college football history is that it came from the Northeast, literally, and it just kind of made its way down south. But as soon as it made its way down south, they spurned the Northeast. So I find it interesting that the fact that just like, Army, Colgate, we don't need y'all. I think we got this. And of course, this is also about to be right before huge television contracts are going to come about. This is literally right as the Big East is becoming a thing. So it's very interesting how all of that just kind of happened at the same time. And Colgate literally just missed barely.
No, it's definitely a turning point in college football for sure. And that article they mentioned, the article that I found on newspapers.com, they mentioned not really, I guess, television drop, because that wasn't a huge deal at the time. I think even that year for the Independence Bowl, not even nationally televised. I think it was in syndication. The big concern was attendance, and they averaged less than 10,000 per game attendance wise at venerable Andy Kerr Stadium out in Hamilton. So interesting thing there. The thing with Army is up until 84, the administrators there, they were worried about, I guess, bowl games interfering with final exams. So you see, like, I'm not sure if you heard about the 67 Army team in the Sugar Bowl, the day that no
Yeah,
sugar, no sugar for
yeah,
the Corps cadets if Army gets
yeah,
denied
yeah,
the
yeah.
Sugar Bowl. Yeah, a very, very iconic story in cadet lore. But yeah, so that same thing was happening up until then. And I guess it was a lose-lose because the Independence Bowl ended up with I guess a then rising Louisville program, but still Louisville program that didn't have much cred to its name. So
Exactly,
just
for
a very
sure.
interesting scenario. Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, for sure. I'm not sure how many Colgate fans would have snowbirded down to Shreveport, Louisiana, but I mean, one can only imagine.
Hey, didn't Holy Cross schlup its way down to Miami in 1945?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah. They sure did.
I think that Colgate fans could have schlepped their way down to Shreveport.
Yeah. I mean, I've been trying to find out what there is to do in Shreveport. I mean, because Army's got a tie to the Independence Bowl, which I mean, it's interesting. It's against a Pac-12 school, but it's like I've never heard of like what there is to do in Shreveport. So I'm sure they would
I've
have found something to do.
actually driven through, it was a while ago, but just kind of drive through.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. No insult to anyone, but when you think
Yeah, just
Louisiana
kind of
State,
drive
you
through
think
unless you're going to be playing college football there is pretty much the best way to put it.
yeah, no, fair enough. That's what I figured for sure.
Mhm.
So I guess before we get carried away into I guess angering Shreveport residents, I want to go through this. I want to go through this what if scenario. So I want to ask first, Preston, if Colgate goes to this bowl game, do you think that sort of builds momentum to keep them in Division 1A, keep their administrators into Division 1A? Because you've seen in the past with academic schools, especially the Ivy Leagues, with the big television scandal in the early 50s with Penn.
Mhm.
So these are
Mhm.
sort of turning points where it's like, all right, college football isn't as profitable if we can't do it that way. If Colgate gets a taste of big time bowl life, do you think they stay Division 1A?
Honestly, I would probably say no, just because they would want to be a part of, the Patriot League and the Ivy League, even though they won't ever admit it publicly. They like dovetail each other. So I think that Colgate would have wanted to, kind of stay in that sort of realm. And I just don't think that they would have said, "Oh yeah, we're Notre Dame. Oh yeah, we're Syracuse." I don't think that they would have thought of themselves as that. It would have been, it would have been a boon economically for them. Probably would have helped them, do some other stuff. But I don't think that they would have been able to sustain it. Basically, they would have been more likely to drop after the 80s, basically. And we can get into this later. They probably would have been more likely to drop after, the South decided to actually integrate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm either way on this. I'm 50-50 because while I do believe it wasn't as sustainable, I guess Colgate not really having like the football infrastructure to support it. This is a time when literally everyone is independent. I mean,
Mhm.
um, I can see them stringing a schedule already, a strong Eastern schedule of Army, which they played into the 80s, I believe. They played Army into the 80s of Army, Pittsburgh, Temple. Of course, going to get to play Temple, Rutgers too. That's already four schools.
I think Penn State was
Cincinnati,
also independent as well.
Penn State. I don't know if they play Penn State every year, maybe like the occasional game every few years, but Penn
Mhm.
State, Navy as well. And I'm also like missing like Boston College is independent, of course, like pretty much all the
Mhm.
Big East schools. Um, and then of course like schools of similar academic stature, like Tulane being an independent. So I can
Mhm.
see them like definitely like making a schedule and staying independent for a few years. How successful they are, I see them sort of being like that like sort of like at a Temple level, but they're making Division One money. I know syndication was huge. Looking at old broadcasts in like the 70s and 80s of independent football, syndication was huge then. So I assume the money was pretty good for an independent. Aside from
Yeah.
like being on cable, like probably better than being on cable. So I'd say it would have been. I mean, it's realistic to see them build a schedule too. And I guess the best part as well, I'm missing the big team that could have played every year. Syracuse. The Syracuse rivalry could have continued
Right. Right.
for years on end. Um, but I guess that brings me back to the next part of this. So if Colgate stays Division 1A, where do you see them joining a conference? Like, do you see them whether it be the Big East as a football member? I'm not sure if the basketball's up to snuff at the time, or even the MAC when Buffalo joins in, and I guess joining Buffalo as a travel partner.
I think they probably would have been a part of that Big East conglomerate. Because I know the Big East, when they were forming, they were trying to go for big markets. But what folks don't think about with big markets is that alumni are in big markets. So I'm not always going to do this, but when you bring it back to JMU, everybody's like, "Well, it's just Harrisonburg," but I'm like, "Yeah, but it's also Washington D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. They all have very big alumni bases there." Colgate has big alumni bases and a lot of TV markets. So it would have been just as attractive as Syracuse, but just not as big as it were. So I think that they would have brought that to the table, which is why I think the Big East probably would have, given them a good look. And who knows? I mean, do you think that they would be doing better than UMass right now? Like, let's just be honest about that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree because they would have the tradition. Like the tradition of Colgate is so rich.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could go on for days, but even though they're a Holy Cross arch rival. Um, but yeah, like you mentioned the big like we talk about the Big East and markets. Holy Cross actually denied a Big East invitation. They were one of the schools Big East originally targeted, and Worcester lived in Worcester for 10 years. It's a pretty good mid-level city,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you got Providence an hour or 45 minutes away, and then you got Boston 45 minutes away as well.
Mm-hmm.
And don't even mention like the rest of New England that's nearby, as well as Western New York. So um definitely like I definitely see the alumni argument there. I want to pose another sort of crazy scenario conference wise. 1997 or 1998, Army joins Conference USA. So do you see Conference USA pulling Colgate and Army for I guess sort of a New York duo in that sort of small I guess, beginning stage of Conference USA?
It would have been nice for them. Much better than they are right now. I drag Conference USA all the time. I say, why is ODU going to El Paso? It makes zero sense. Um, they could have done better. I think there's a reason why they had some folks jump to other conferences. I just there's a reason why if JMU joined the current iteration of Conference USA, I don't think any JMU fans would be particularly happy about it. Like there would be a few close rivals, but it's it just geographically makes no sense. It's just illogical. But if they decided to be more Eastern based and try and get yeah, like that East Coast sort of thing, that probably would have made a lot more sense for them, and they probably would have been more sustainable. But that's not how they were thinking. I think that absolutely Army. I mean, if you're going to pull one of the military institutions, um, pretty much everybody's going to grab at that. That's why the AAC took their shot. They missed. um, but also, if you brought in Colgate as well, for that rivalry as well, that would have been very interesting to see. And it would have been interesting to see how they would have tried to upscale their, facilities and the stadium and all of that sort of thing, because they would have had to. They would have had to. So yeah, that would have been interesting. I'm not sure that they would have been able to do it as quickly as they would have liked, though.
So you're telling me that Andy Kerr's whatever the heck shape it is, grandstand isn't good enough for division for FBS football? I'm shocked.
I'm just
But
saying, what does the stadium sit? 10,000 people?
yeah, 10,000. But yeah, I do agree it's outdated. For well, not outdated, but yeah, not enough for FBS football. Um, I guess like stay on the Conference USA thing. Like, would you see Conference USA then? I guess sort of approaching Marshall earlier out of West Virginia, and then because it sort of goes down the line if you have Colgate, because you have Colgate up north, Colgate and Army up north, you
Mm-hmm.
have Marshall in West Virginia, down to East Carolina, and then down to Louisville. Oh, and also Cincinnati too. So you have like sort of like a nice, I guess, sort of, I guess, train of schools
Mm-hmm.
in the Northeast slash Mid Atlantic. Do you see them approaching Marshall for membership earlier on?
I think what they should have done, just in general, when it came to that realignment, is they should have thought a little bit more regionally. I don't think that they realized that schools like Appalachian State, Marshall, Coastal Carolina, even Charlotte, as new as it is, those are going to be alumni bases that are going to, hate each other in a good way. Those are going to be games that folks go to the TV for and frequent. And they should have leaned into that a little bit more. The Conference USA said, let's go to San Antonio. Let's get these big markets. Um, so they were thinking big, but they really should have just thought of what's going to make an actually good, genuine TV product. And leaning into regionalization is probably what they should have done. And now it's biting them in the butt. because their conference is spread out, their contract is crap.
I guess before we move on from the whole conference USA, like I totally agree. And now they're sort of with that like desperate late night U up call to the AAC and the Sun Belt with the with the regional realignment. I don't know what better way to describe it. So they're doing that now. But I will say, if Colgate ended up joining Conference USA after, I guess, what would be 2 decades of independence, I would be so here for a Colgate UTEP game. It's just such a
You sure you want to
contrast.
go to Do you sure you want to go to El Paso?
Well, I'm getting stationed there next, so I mean, I
Oh,
better want
okay.
to go. Yeah,
Okay.
I better
All
want to go
right.
to El Paso.
All right. Okay
um,
then.
yeah,
That is a
I mean,
that's a 2,000-mile trip, man.
yeah, it is. It is. It's just interesting that I guess with this scenario we're throwing around that like even if Cincinnati stayed, that Cincinnati and UTEP could be in the same conference at the same time. It's
Yeah.
amazing to think of with Conference U. It truly is Conference USA. Like I'm not sure that they envisioned that happening at the
Yeah.
conference's outset, but
I don't think they did either. And I think when the American, they tried to shoot their shot, they're like, well, we're going to be the American. And then I mean, I'm sorry. I was so happy that it fell flat on its face. There was no reason why Air Force and Colorado State belong in the same conference as South Florida. That's ridiculous to me.
yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just full stop there. I got nothing yet because yeah, it's just a weird concept because all those other smaller programs without the budget are getting thrown under the bus, and it's just not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
For sure. For
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I guess well speaking of a way less geographically sprawled conference, the Patriot League, and this is I guess maybe like the most significant part of this what if scenario is if Colgate stays Division One after the 19, I guess in the slim chance they stay Division One after the 1977 Independence Bowl, the Patriot League would be down to 5 members because with Colgate being a charter member, you have Bucknell, Davidson, which I was surprised was a charter member for 4 years. I mean, it's intriguing to see, and we'll talk about it more. See what they would have done with more years in the conference. So you have Bucknell, Davidson, Holy Cross, Lafayette, and Lehigh. Um, do you see the Patriot? Do you see Davidson staying in? I guess the Patriot League making a bigger push to keep Davidson as a member of the Patriot League if they can't get Colgate with this scenario.
I think they would have tried to grab Howard. I think they're still trying to grab Howard. I think that they see that the MEAC is vulnerable right now, but Howard is literally a founding member. But Howard fits the mold in terms of geography, it fits the mold academically. I think it would be a boon for the Patriot League to say, hey, yo, we got Howard. So I think that's what they would have tried to do back then. I would not be surprised if that's what they're trying to do right now. So that probably would have been the jump. But in terms of Davidson, I mean, Davidson is like slightly out of the geographic footprint, but it's close enough. So, and also with that Howard connection, it would have made, that's closer. So they would have been closer for that reason. But I think that that would have been what their number one grab would be. And again, I think that I would not be surprised if the Patriot League offered Howard a spot. Like honestly,
That's something I've actually thought about too, with Howard and the MEAC because the MEAC, they're really not in a great position, obviously. I mean, frankly, I think they should grab Tennessee State right now. Like now's the time to grab Tennessee
yeah,
State
yeah.
from the OVC, because the Tennessee State experiment of OVC has not worked aside from a couple playoff appearances and Dominique Rogers Cromartie.
And
But that's a
some nice band battles with Jacksonville State.
oh yeah, that too. But they can get that in the MEAC. I mean, as a
Exactly,
non-conference team.
exactly.
Yeah, they can get that in the MEAC. The school that I was pointing to, in terms of keeping Davidson, I guess, with as a travel partner, would be William and Mary. And I've
You
seen
cannot have
some
the
grumbling.
nerds. You cannot have the nerds. The nerds belong to us. Although that
Oh,
honestly, academically, that would totally make sense.
yeah.
And it would make sense for them to try and grab Richmond as well. Because I mean, if we're going to be honest about the CAA, it is it's a worse conglomerate than the Big East. Like half the teams have football, half the teams don't have football. Um, and I'm not going to drag flow the entire time while I'm here. Um, but it is just not a good fit. And I'm not saying that from like a JMU perspective. I'm saying that just in general. It's just too many schools with too many different aspirations. So if the Patriot League actually did, go after William and Mary, go after Richmond, that also makes sense as well, which also I think even, bolsters my Howard perspective as well. Those are all within 2.5 hours traveling distance driving. That would be really, really, really close knit. And that's a really, really solid, like Mid-Eastern sort of conference. Um, and that probably would have kept Davidson in. But that's not the way that they decided to go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is interesting. I mean, like especially now, like imagining a Davidson in the Patriot League now with them sort of finding their groove in the
Mm-hmm.
Pioneer League would be some strong football. And I mean the whole like and the Patriot League as well. I love the Patriot League for the history, but also with the parity cyclical. It's amazing. I mean, just seeing like all those teams contend. But yeah, like I can totally see, like you said, like I guess Richmond. The question I have with Richmond is like, are the academics great? Graded for Patriot League standards at Richmond? Because I haven't really heard anything about their academic profile.
They have a really good graduate school. I'm struggling to say good things about Richmond since JMU plays them this weekend. Um, so you have to, deal with that. It's a good school. It's a good school. Um, Not as good as William and Mary. I'll say that straight up. But it's like it is legitimately a good school. So I would think that I think it would be up to snuff. I really do think it would be up to snuff, but it would not drag down the GPA. It's not like you're putting the University of Alabama in the SEC. Oh wait, did I say that out loud? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good to know, honestly, about Richmond too. And sorry, I had to I made you do that. Say nice
Yeah,
things
you
about the
made me say
Spiders.
nice things about the
Sorry.
spiders.
But man, it's just crazy to imagine like another thing I love, and I guess it's turning like a Patriot League Love Fest podcast. Like every I always drag the Patriot League into everything, I guess. But the thing I love about the Patriot League is the venues. I mean, you got Christy Mathewson, you got Fitton Field, of course, place I spent a few games as a kid.
Mhm.
Growing up, you got Fisher Stadium for Lafayette, Goodman Stadium at Lehigh, but also adding a City Stadium for Richmond, an underrated venue. I mean, it's still standing to this
They're
day.
not I mean, they're not there though anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess like from I guess the time period we're talking about,
Well,
like
yes, yeah,
the
yes,
inception of
yes,
the
yes,
yeah, yeah, so yeah,
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
Actually, I think that we were one of the last folks to shut down City Stadium in 2008.
Oh man.
I went there with we took our marching band there. We literally had a 17-hour day. We performed three band like at three, you know, we performed at three like band high school competitions, and then we had the Richmond game in the middle of it. It was the most ridiculous day of all time. Thankfully, we won the game. Thankfully, we won the game. Of course, Richmond won the championship that year, which we should have won because Montana cheated. But we're not going to talk about that.
Yes. I guess we'll get off the subject. Was that the game with the punt return in '08? The
Yeah,
Was that the game in okay, that was
yeah,
punt
yeah,
return
yeah,
game.
yeah.
Okay.
That was Scotty McGee's punt return. Phenomenal. I was there live. Um, Absolutely loud, and they now don't sell single game tickets at Richmond anymore because JMU fans just take it over.
That's embarrassing. Like that really is embarrassing.
It is what it is. It is what it
Yeah.
is. But at the same time, like I mean, I know I'm not supposed to say nice things about them. It's a good school. It really is a good school. They're decent at basketball as well. Consider them more of a lacrosse college, though, because wax bros. Um, but I think if the Patriot League was going to try to expand, or if they tried to expand back then, they should have tried to grab both Richmond and William and Mary because they do have that rivalry. I think that's why the CAA or the A10 was able to, get them together. because they do have that genuine bond. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to grab Villanova and Delaware, because I don't know. I mean, Delaware's like on the cusp of, do they want to be an FBS type of school? I think that Villanova is content with being a basketball school. But I think that Delaware would, you know, it, I mean, they're going to be better than UMass. Let's just be real. I don't mean to drag UMass all the time, but I think that Delaware could win 5 or 6 games in FBS. I think that would be totally within their grasp. But they're also, they're obviously in the geographic footprint. Both are very good schools as well. So, the Patriot League, depending on how much the CAA crumbles, which I think it will over the next 5 or 6 years, because I'm going to be honest. Do you think that JMU is going to be in the CAA in 5 years? Exactly.
No, I can see no. I can see in SoCon. Like if they're going to another FCS conference, I can see SoCon. They got a great package, great television package, great
Yeah.
streaming package too. But
Yeah, better that
yeah.
than what they have right now. I mean, so if and when JMU leaves, I think it's just going to be kind of a domino effect. And I could, like I said, the Patriot League could become a very, very good conference if they play their cards right. Because I would love to see them, with a Delaware, with a Villanova, with a Howard, and, grab William and Mary in Richmond. I'd go to those games. Shoot, Georgetown's right down the road from me.
Oh no, that's great. Yeah, it's convenient. Too bad they're not that good. I mean,
They have a cute stadium.
it's just how it is. Yeah, yeah, at their nice middle of the campus stadium, which is pretty cool. I'm not gonna act like it's not cool. I mean, it's cool that they
it's
have the
mostly for
buildings.
lacrosse. It's mostly for lacrosse.
That's fair. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, no, definitely too. I guess it's weird hearing all these like flagship state schools, state universities being I guess put up for Patriot consideration. But that'll be something that I'm gonna watch out for too. For me, if I figured there's gonna be a split in the CAA, I would have thought it would have been with the ASUN, like they got spread across like the ASUN and maybe even like the Big South as well, rather than like the Patriot League. But because I'm
So
not sure if.
well, I
Oh,
was
yeah,
going
go
to
ahead.
say, I think that the thing is for like the ASUN, do they want to grab Elon? No, they want to grab JMU because the ASUN has FBS aspirations. I think it's pretty obvious that JMU has, well, not FBS aspirations. It's just a matter of time before somebody stops being stupid and invites them. Um, it's one of the best athletic departments in the entire country. It's just for somebody to say, we would like to see Odyssey Alexander, like that sort of thing. So I think that that's kind of, the thing. And what I think has been interesting is even though JMU lost last weekend, I think that there's just been kind of silence on that front because like I said, I don't see the CAA being together. I mean, it just makes no sense to me. It's barely made sense to me. It only made sense when there was also VCU, ODU, and George Mason, and it was a good basketball conference. And now those schools are gone, so it's just kind of there now, which is why I think that Jamie wants to be out. Flow Sports is terrible, and like I said, I think that Villanova could very happily hop to the Patriot League, in my opinion. They would dominate the Patriot League, but I think that they could they would be academically, aligned with them. And it would only be a football affiliation, which I think that the Patriot League would be fine with. But I think that they could probably get Delaware as a full-blown member as well. And I think that those would be boons for the conference. And especially because there's also that history that we were talking about, you know, going back over 100 years. So that would be also pretty fascinating as well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I'm fascinated by this scenario too. yeah, I guess in a roundabout way, we come to the conclusion that the 1977 Independence Bowl, if Colgate appeared in it, if the bowl organizers wised up and chose the Raiders, that in a roundabout way, the Colonial Athletic Association would, face sort of a demise or be in an existential crisis.
I don't think it would
Yeah,
exist.
yeah,
I don't think it would
in a
exist.
roundabout way.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
we came to.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
pretty
always
much.
fun bouncing. It's always fun bouncing these what if scenarios because you never know like how the discussion's gonna go. So yeah, I guess on that note, Preston, do you have anything final to add? Any thing to put a bow on this?
Um, so how are you looking at the playoffs right now? I always like to ask people this because everybody thinks that I think JMU was ranked eighth in the stats poll, and I just said there's not 8 teams better than JMU right now. Let's just call shenanigans. So what are the and I think that FAMU has a legitimate chance at the playoffs this year.
Yeah,
Clean sweep.
no, I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. So I haven't looked as much as like the at large. I've looked at particular conference races, like the Patriot League. It looks wide open. The NEC as well. I'm really pushing for Bryant to pick things up, and the NEC may get their first appearance. In terms of at larges, I mean, I guess the givens are, there's gonna be a lot of teams coming from the CAA, a lot of teams coming from the MVFC.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to see how the AQ7 shakes out. Honestly, it's an interesting situation. Whether Jacksonville State will, I guess.
Well, that was going to
Uh,
be my next question. What are you going to do with Jacksonville State?
yeah, I mean, they got to figure things out. Like, I'm surprised that they're having trouble right now, but um, yeah, no, I'd have to do more research on the playoff race because like right now I'm big into the bowl projections, but I got to look at the playoff race a lot more
Mm-hmm.
honestly. So
Okay.
yeah, I can't. I mean, I can give you the Celebration Bowl race like right now. Like I'm excited for Norfolk State. What a surprise that
There,
is.
I think. Well, so when they got Southern's coach, I felt good about that because
Okay, yeah.
he did good stuff down at Southern, so I figured that they would be pretty good. Um, South Carolina State is a very good 1-4.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like I don't think that they're actually that bad. They're not
No,
actually
no.
that bad. It's a good football team. They're just have some unfortunate circumstances, but Norfolk State will probably beat them. Um, and it'll be interesting to see what North Carolina A&T does, because I think they've finally hit their stride. They um, started off the football season a little slowly, but I think that they're finally rounding into form. When Monmouth got dragged by Holy Cross, I was just like, okay,
Oh, I was shocked. I was pleasantly surprised, but I was
yeah,
shocked.
yeah. But then, of course, Holy Cross is pulling a Jacksonville State, where you can't tell
Oh
who you're
yeah.
gonna you can't tell who you're gonna
Oh
get.
yeah. Tell me about it.
I was
Tell me
just like,
about it.
I'm trying to be a stand for you all. I'm trying to be a stand, and you let me down. You let me
Uh,
down because I do want to. I obviously I told you about this. I would love to go to a Holy Cross game next year when I have more time on my hands,
oh
and
yeah.
just wear all the purple and be super loud, and
Yeah.
they'll be like, "Who is this guy? And why is he here? And why is he wearing Jamie stuff?"
It's very, very tame environment. Yep. Might want to bring a seat cushion because those steel seats, they're not comfortable.
What is that stadium seat like? 45,
No,
55?
no, it's just at 23,000, I believe. I think it's 23,000, but might be
Okay.
even less because they tarped it up. So,
Oh,
um,
okay. Okay. Oh no, that's fair. That's totally fair. Totally fair. But yeah, I'm just very interested to see, how the playoffs kind of even themselves out. And it always, it's very interesting to me. Obviously, we pay attention to Northeast football. And there are folks that say that we shouldn't pay attention to the Ivy League because they don't play in the playoffs.
just
And
say his name. Just say Kevin's name.
I say Rhode Island is undefeated. Rhode Island plays Ivy League teams. Holy Cross plays Ivy League teams. Like there's a reason to consider them. Um, I know it's it might be nice to just pretend like they don't exist, but they actually do make a little bit of a thing on the playoffs, and I think it's important to consider them, especially because they're also really good teams.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, like I mean, 2019. I mean, um, our guy at FCS Nation, he can talk about the playoffs, but for the 2019 season with Dartmouth and Princeton, a game that I was at, both
Mhm.
undefeated, 3 weeks into the year, like towards the end of the year. Those are good teams. Like
Those are good teams.
S&P, yeah,
Yeah.
Sagarin has those teams ranked high for a reason. I mean, it's the computers have them ranked high. I mean,
Mhm.
computer doesn't distinguish whether they play in the playoffs or not. I mean, they're just good teams.
Yeah, so like that's always kind of been my thing. It's just like, and again, especially if they're going to influence the playoffs, which they absolutely do. And I think that that's important, to just kind of take an entire perspective, especially as somebody who votes. I want to make sure that I'm looking at everybody, um, because, like I said, Rhode Island plays those teams. Rhode Island beats Delaware. That's going to be something. I think that when Rhode Island beats an Ivy League team, that needs to be a data point. I think when Holy Cross beats an Ivy League team, that needs to be a data point. I think if Colgate ever has the opportunity to beat an Ivy League team, that needs to be a data point. Because you never know. Maybe there will be that one time where Colgate will be the second team from the Patriot League.
Yeah.
When's the
Oh yeah.
last
Well, I
time
mean,
that
this
happened?
weekend, yeah.
When's
This
the
weekend they
last?
got Cornell. So I mean, you mentioned
Yeah,
opportunities. They got
and,
Cornell.
and, and Cornell's not bad this year.
Yeah, yeah. The defense is solid. It always has been. They beat
Mm-hmm.
Dartmouth in 2019. I mean, like, that was the upset of the year in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
FBS or FCS.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's this Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I think that it's lazy to ignore them, because they would also say, well, the HBCUs don't participate either, and then you have to be like, but you're no, that's wrong.
Yep.
Because they
Yep.
do. Because they
Oh yeah,
do.
exactly. Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
just like I well, I don't want to rant on the record.
Yeah.
Perhaps off the record for a little bit. Um, but yeah, it's just I try to keep a perspective on everything. I grew up on Division II football. My dad went to Johnson C. Smith University, so I watched a lot of CIAA. Went to a lot of Bowie State games, so know all about that life. So it's always been nice to hit up the North Carolinas, the Virginias, Virginia State, Virginia Union. I've been there more times than I can even count on my hands. And then also, just going up north. So my cousin actually works at Princeton now. So, nice excuse to go up there as well,
Oh yeah.
which is really nice. Yeah. Oh, she's doing
Yeah.
doctor stuff.
Oh, yeah. No, it figures. I guess any reason to go to I'm gonna call it Palmer Stadium 2.0. It is a good reason to go. Um, but yeah, no, no, this has been great, Preston. I really appreciate it. Love to have you back on. Because I mean, I'm a U.S. history major, graduated U.S. history degree. Love
That's all.
talking
Mhm.
college football history. It's kind of, I guess it's kind of a macrocosm of American happenings
Yeah.
at times. So would love to have you back on. This has been great. Until next time, unless you have anything else to say.
Just wanted to ask you a very quick question. I'm looking on my personal laptop here. Where was Fordham ranked in 1939?
Oh man, I don't know exact position. Was that the Cotton Bowl team? Was that the team that played in the 2-0 Cotton Bowl?
I don't have that written down, but I do know where they were ranked. And as a happy hint, Georgetown was also ranked.
Was Duquesne ranked too? I mean, there was a
Yeah,
period those
Duquesne was
during
also
Georgia Bowl.
ranked.
Of course, yeah. I'm just gonna say, let's see. I think was it at 20 teams back in 39? I'm gonna say 12?
17th.
17th. Okay.
Yeah. So this is something that I wrote down. I have all of the basically North slash FCS teams that have been ranked throughout the years. So in 1939, we have Cornell at 4, Duquesne at 10, Boston College at 11, Fordham 17, and Georgetown at 21.
I know Cornell. Cornell had some really good runs
Yeah.
in the 20s with Gil Dobby in the late 30s as well. I'm not sure who the coach was. They did have a Jerome Brudd Holland, Hall of Famer, one of the first Black players at Cornell,
Mm.
doing great things. So no, I'm not surprised by Cornell. Georgetown, I'm a bit surprised by Georgetown.
I mean, aren't
But
we all surprised when Georgetown is decent?
oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely.
I was so and I was about to say, whenever you want to turn off the recording, just do it.
Oh, I feel like I mean people will watch, when they watch or listen when they listen. So
That's
it's so
true. But I was gonna say, it's always nice when Georgetown is okay. Like when they were almost 500, I was over the moon.
yeah. I mean, I want them to. I mean, I guess take the monkey off their back and win a Patriot League title. But I just don't
They
know.
were
Like
so
that school's so.
close.
What year were they close?
I feel like a couple years. It wasn't 2000. It wasn't 2019, but they were close not too long ago. Because I mean,
2017 when 5-6 Lehigh or
yeah,
Lafayette, one of those two.
yeah. Like they were close, which sounds weird, but it is what it is. Uh, so what I love about the research that I've been doing is that I am literally looking up like Ivy League, Patriot League, and HBCUs, and that's all I'm doing because I just know that those are the conferences that built everything, even if ESPN won't tell you.
Exactly. I took some flack today when I said that my favorite conferences were the Ivy League and Patriot League. Yeah, no, I took some flack, but I stand by it and I stand proudly for it.
And what's his name? The campus tour guy. When he goes to those stadiums, he's like, "This just feels different. Like it just
Yes,
feels,
it does. It
it
really
just
does.
like it just feels different. Like I mean, don't get me wrong. When you go to Biddle College, K.A. Johnson C. Smith, it feels different. It just feels different when you like. I mean, I've had the opportunity to not only just step on that field, but perform on that field as well. Randomly with band, just because band dorks. Um, so it's just always fascinating to be in a place where you can be in that situation, and I think that the SoCon has that as well. Um, it's just it's a different type of feel. Those are different sorts of places where you step into those stadiums and it's just like, huh, okay, and like you feel it in your chest a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
It,
feel it
it's
in
an
your
aura.
chest. Yeah,
It's an
like
aura of reverence. Yeah.
like you feel it in your chest a little bit, and you can't help but just be like, I kind of like this. I
Oh
kind
yeah.
of like this, which is why I love going to games in the Northeast. It's why I love going to games when I do go to North and South Carolina. Just for the heck of it. Excuse me, just for the heck of it. I love doing those sorts of travel. It just fills me with joy. It makes me so happy.
Yeah. No, same here. I mean, that's why I want to make my home up in the Northeast and return and just, go on weekend trips to, whatever stadium takes me for the weekend.
Mhm.
It's definitely a special feeling for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, we can go all night about the stadiums of the Northeast, but this has been great. Really appreciate it, Preston. And
sure.
until next time, for everyone that is still listening or watching, thank you. But peace, love, and soul, everyone.
Right. All right. Appreciate it.